problem with what we have with sanctions, and I was a user of sanctions, but I'd put them on and take them off as quickly as possible, because ultimately it kills your dollar and it kills everything the dollar represents, and we have to continue to have that be the world currency.
All right, very important. That's what he said at the New York Economics Club speech back in September. Joining us now to talk about that and a few other things, we've got John Carney, Breitbart economics and finance editor and co-author of the Breitbart Business Digest, Steve Miran, Manhattan Institute fellow and a former senior Treasury Department advisor. Gentlemen, welcome. It's interesting, John. There is a discussion going on between tariffs and sanctions, okay? Like sanctioning Iran. I would bet you whatever Mr. Trump is now saying, and specifically, he will reimpose very tough sanctions on Iran, very tough sanctions. But we have sanctions all over the place. We have way too many sanctions. Wall Street Journal story today, I don't know, there's almost 100 sanctions going on or some such thing. So that is wrong and could reduce the demand for the dollar. So the tilt seems to be tariffs are a better weapon to use with our enemies or unfair trading practices than sanctions in order to achieve Mr. Trump's ultimate goal, which is to keep the dollar as the world's reserve currency. So I want you to weigh, you're both going to weigh in on that. You first, John.
Absolutely. Look, part of the problem is when you weaponize the dollar and access to the dollar, it makes people start to worry. What happens if I run afoul of the U.S.? I better not just use the dollar for all my transactions. And it forces people to start to look for other things to do. The good thing about tariffs, on the other hand, is it says if you want access to U.S. markets, then you're going to have to play ball with the U.S. So that's a different way of approaching things. And the rest of the world needs access to U.S. markets because we are the buyer of last resort for everybody's excess capacity.
Okay, so I basically agree with that, more or less, Steve Miran. But in some cases, like, take Iran, all right? Yeah. I mean, I don't want them to have access to oil. I don't want them to have anything. I want to bankrupt the country, and if I could, I'd bury it 20 feet below the ground. But as a generic matter, I think what John is saying is the demand for dollars, you want to keep that if at all possible. Or not. I mean, maybe you don't agree with that. Some people hate tariffs. Some of our brothers and sisters at a certain conservative publication in this building just go freak out over tariffs. Most of the world thinks tariffs are going to cause another 10 or 20% inflation, even though there's no evidence to support that point of view. Where do you come out?
Yeah, absolutely. So the U.S. provides two things to the world. It provides a security umbrella, a defense umbrella, and it provides the reserve asset. U.S. Treasury securities, the U.S. dollar. Both of those impose significant burdens on the United States in the sense that you can push the value of the dollar up, which causes trade deficits, which we don't like, which are bad for our manufacturing sector. And the defense umbrella is a big, budget burden on us. By using tariffs against our geopolitical enemies and with our trading partners that don't pull their weight, we can recapture some of that burden back to us and improve burden sharing for the system overall. So tariffs are a very useful weapon, and sanctions, like you say, should be used with extreme force when we have a specific target in mind, like Iran.
But sparingly.
But sparingly.
Which is what I think Mr. Trump is saying, sparingly.
Yeah. When you do it, you should do it all the way, but you shouldn't do it haphazardly and spatter.
As the Bidens did. Actually,
exactly.
The Bidens loosened it up, and they paid a heavy price for that. John Carney, it's interesting. Numbers, 58% of global foreign exchange reserves are in dollars, 58%. And the bigger number is 88% of foreign exchange transactions are dollar-based. And there really is, there's talk about the BRIC currencies, Brazil, Russia, India, China, but there is no BRIC currency. There's no such thing.
Right.
I mean, we have BRICS, B-R-I-C-K-S. We build homes with them and so forth. But there's no currency called BRICS, B-R-I-C-S.
No, and the rest...
I'm not sure what's prompted this whole discussion.
The rest of the world does not want to depend on China. They are not a reliable currency partner. The reason why the U.S. is the reserve currency for the entire world is when we are a responsible steward of the global economy. We are not going to just we have to be more self-interested than we have been in the past. But China is really only out for itself. It has no sense of responsibility for the rest of the world. The U.S. is actually really good about this. We have fostered institutions, whether it's the World Bank, the IMF, to help the rest of the world. That's one of the reasons that our currency is the reserve currency for everyone. And I don't think anybody is going to feel good relying on Xi Jinping's generosity and taking their currency as the global currency.
Yes, well, they're bad actors. Steve Miran, another point I want to raise is discussion in Congress. Senator John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, Republican Majority Leader, is suggesting we need multiple reconciliation bills. In my time, you're lucky to get one. In fact, in the last 25 years, it's never been a time when you had more than one reconciliation bill for people, a fiscal package of budgets and taxes that requires only a majority vote, 51 votes in the Senate, which the Republicans more than likely will definitely have nowadays. But they won't put tax cuts in it. I think that's a real bad idea. I mean, Trump campaigned on tax cuts. His working class coalition depended on tax cuts. Kitchen table people want to increase their after-tax pay. They want to increase their take-home pay. How can we not raise taxes right at this time? I want the withholding rates here, pure Kudlow. I want the withholding rates for individual taxes, right? You're making 75 grand a year, whatever, 50 grand a year, 100 grand a year, all right? Working folks, we'll call it working. I want those withholding rates from the IRS to go down by summertime and give them more after-tax take-home pay. What you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So
I don't want to wait. I mean this. I don't want to wait. I'm for energy reform. I'm for border and all the rest of it, but I do not want to wait.
No, I completely agree. Look, the economic boom in the first Trump administration was due in large part to tax cuts.
Yes.
Right? Huge element of it. And the economic boom in the second Trump administration is also going to be due in large part to tax cuts.
Yes.
If we don't get those tax cuts done, you're not going to get the economic boom that we need. We will get that economic boom. We will get the tax cuts done. And as you say, if you lower withholding rates, you put more money in workers and families' paychecks every week.
Yes.
That's more money every week to spend.
I don't want this
get the
to be
economy
any harder
booming.
than it needs to be. Scott Besson, if you're listening to his answer, I'm giving him an
We're
A+.
starting-
I'm giving him an A. You're getting an A+. Scott Besson watches the show. You're getting an A+.
We're starting to see, Larry, though, Wall Street is actually, I've started to read a couple notes where they say the Trump tax cuts may not come through or they may be much smaller than anticipated.
Right.
And this is because of the delay.
Yes,
and
thank you.
The other thing that it
Which is just what happened in 2017,
Absolutely.
unfortunately, right? They went to health care first, got the brains beaten in, then finally squeaked through at the very end amidst tremendous uncertainty.
It also is an invitation to lobbyists to come in and start to carve out their special interest exceptions that they want. I don't think it's a good idea to let it be delayed. They should put it all in one package, get the Trump agenda done as soon as possible, not wait till next summer, especially if something goes wrong, if there's bad blood, if, say, they can't come to an agreement on the border, which, by the way, not all Republicans are on board with Trumpian border policy. If they can't come to an agreement on that, that could really mess up our ability to get tax cuts done if they're trying to do it later.
And you know what? You'll be sitting around, sucking on your thumbs, and all of a sudden, what happens? December 31st comes, and the individual tax cuts expire.
Yep.
Income tax cuts expire, the small business tax cuts expire, the doubling of the standard deduction expires, the doubling of the kiddie credit expires, all those good things that, did you say it? You said it. Put more money in people's pockets.
And businesses,
that's what they want.
Absolutely.
Businesses aren't going to, sorry, Stephen, go ahead.
And look, President Trump knows how to get the economy booming. He knows tax cuts are a critical part of that.
He ran on it constantly.
Exactly. And look, last year, President Trump wasn't in the White House. Sorry, this year, President Trump is in the White House. He wasn't sort of working on a daily basis with Congress. Next year, he will be, right? And so once he's out there telling congressmen, look, we need to do this to get the economy booming, Congress is going to get it done. The administration is going to get it done. The economy is going to boom.
Scott Besson.
It's economic.
Watching A+. That's all I need to say.
It's
First time in the
economically-
show, you get an A+. Terrific stuff.
It's economically,
you already have an A+.
It's
John
economically damaging to just let the risk that the tax cuts won't happen be out there. The risk that they expire in December will cause businesses to expect people to be able to spend less, way ahead of time.
I know. Make it a lousy year. Trump's first year in office will be a lousy year in the economy. Got to go. Steve Miran, thank you for coming on. John Carney, as always.